Good afternoon, everyone. London Bullion Metals Exchange. Our gold refineries linked to sanctioned entities, kicking 6 refineries to the curb off the good delivery list. But don't worry, it'll find its way to China in the Middle East. Basel III regulations. Unallocated paper needs way more coverage of physical gold. So will that boomerang through back channels through China back into Europe? 41 times more paper trades than physical gold. Interest in silver and gold skyrocketing, orange line. Russia cut off from the International Monetary Fund. Look for special drawing rights to hit the news. You'll see that more and more. Russia and Belarus default territory. Concentrated European lenders. Liquidity crisis, which goes right back into reserve ratios along with gold and holding physical assets to cover. Because major players sure couldn't cover their losses in nickel. The world's unwinding. This is all connected to food and fuel prices as well. This reset is going to be as large as the collapse of the Roman Empire. Check this out. Studies show our appearance directly affects our mental health. Many anti-aging supplements found on store shelves try to capitalize on that. Most of them fall short. This is because they fail at targeting the root of the problem. These products typically try to hide wrinkles, but it's only temporary. The alternative is a solution that goes underneath the surface of the skin to promote the skin's elasticity and overall appearance. It goes by the name of Health with Adapt 2030. This supercharged collagen intake is the secret behind why it works so well. It gets to the source of the problem that causes wrinkles. Collagen is the #1 protein in our skin and what's needed to promote elasticity and a youthful looking appearance. And if you've been looking for a way to look and feel your best, you'll love Health with Adapt2030.com. Take 51% off for the next 24 hours. Health with Adapt2030.com. Or click on the link in the description box below. And now on with the video. And starting off with our favorite metal and life-sustaining force monatomic gold. We'll come back to the tradable and market gold here for delivery because that swings right along with ever-rising gasoline prices in the States. $5.39, and then Los Angeles has reached I am legend gas prices, actually eclipsing that, going well into the $7 range. Look for the rest of the states to follow. $5, $6 gas inbound. Because here is where the unwinding and gold shortages start. London Bullion Metals Exchange asking gold refineries if they have links to sanctioned entities. So they list the 6 refineries that are on the good delivery list, which means they produce the gold, they deliver it to London onto the metals exchange for those who want to take physical delivery. A lot of gold's used in high tech and jewelry, so people do take the physical gold to use it in their businesses. And any producers linked to such sanctioned entities are no longer able to deliver gold to London, which means there's going to be a shortfall of the amount of ounces available, and you can see it spinning out of control already. But they say that Russian metal will still find buyers in China and the Middle East. So it all comes down to the gold and silver. So you have to wonder how that's going to make it to the physical market, because now, understanding that there's going to be a gold shortage, more people are going to try to pull for physical delivery. Then we get into that feedback loop of not enough, and then will they paper settle? And then how will that really start to break the markets where they realize there's not enough gold out there for the needs of persons who want to preserve wealth, as well as businesses, high tech. And what we know as the commodities markets are about to shatter, from nickel, fertilizer, gold, fuel. We're looking at a turning here right now. So if you're looking to see which entities are going to be forbidden from delivering now to London, you're looking at gold and silver both. Now, Russia produces around 9% of the world's gold and around 5 to 7% of the world's silver. That's not going to make it to the market, and you can't just make it up. It's a physical atom. It's a physical metal that comes out of the ground. You can't fake that. Paper trades are one thing, but physical is quite another. Where's it going to come from? See, this is where the shortages of gold and precious metals are going to begin. It's physically not going to be there. And once this awareness comes across Main Street, across every country in the world, even if every family just buys 10 ounces of silver, the market's completely stripped and it will not come back. You're going to look at hyperinflationary silver prices, $1,000, $1,200 per ounce. And again, the same thing, the awareness of gold shortages. Whenever there's a shortage, you know how it is. People want to go get it more because, oh, there's a shortage, there's a shortage. Now it's on the precious metals, which actually hold value during a downturn and a crash like this to preserve wealth. So it's not something like toilet paper. This is something that will allow you to still eat and pay your mortgage and your taxes, as the banks will still want the money and you might not be able to have it when it costs $100 to buy a loaf of bread. But imagine having silver, whatever it is, that'll equate to the paper value, gold as well. There's going to be a run of epic proportions, a run in the last 2,000 years on metals that has not been seen, starting in about now. Now, how does this relate into the banking industry in Europe and Basel III? Well, they had all these new regulations come out that said, paper dangerous, you can't actually physically deliver. So they want to have banks hold more physical or quote unquote reserves against the paper contracts that are out there. So if there is a run on the metals, there will be more for delivery to hopefully quell rumors of a run, but that's not happening. So looking at the COMEX as an example here, 41 times more gold is traded on paper than there is physical. There's 41 times more on a contract that can be physically taken out of the ground in mining. So if you want to do a little more research into this, called net stable funding ratio, it's all about the bank having liquidity or access to monetary instruments when you walk into the bank or a company walks in and says, I want my money, I want my gold, that they have it on hand. So this net stable funding ratio requires a minimum amount of stable resources like physical in the hand of funding relative to the liquidity or paper that's out there. It needs to have some sort of balance to it, and it's really interesting why they're asking to have more physical gold on hand. It's just like a reserve requirement ratio, which this changes all the time as well. So depending on which country you're in, depends on the ratio. So let's use 20%. So for every $100 that are deposited, the bank has to keep 20 on hand in case people come in and say, I want my $20, but then they can loan out 80. Now, if that increases to 30, they're going to have to pull back loans and contract economy and pull back fiat money out of the system to keep it in the bank on that reserve. And this is the same with gold. You could print more paper endlessly, but to get the physical gold or silver, there's a very limited amount. You have 8 billion people on the planet, and 8 billion of them are going to be soon aware that that saves value of money when everything's collapsing. Let me get a little piece. Oh, wait, there's not enough to supply the entire planet. Runaway hyperinflation on the metals. Did I say that already in the video? Food too, and energy. We are going into something so unknown here. It's truly going to be the restructuring and the most chaos and collapse in the financial market in the last 2,000 years. We're in one of those cycles. Along with the grand solar minimum, so you can see why governments are responding now. Food shortages were inbound anyway, with fertilizer shortages, grand solar minimum crop losses, and now a mask to cover yet food shortages. And you can see how this is intertwining. Food's the most important thing. A bar of gold laying next to you when you're starving doesn't matter. If you're too weak to even pick up the gold because you don't have enough nutrition, nutrients, vitamins, and calories running through your body, protein, that bar of gold is worthless to you. The thing that keeps civilization together is food. And these resetters knew the food was going to get scarce this year to the point of causing famines and civil unrest. It seems like they're front running it to try to get hold and have cover stories built in as to why the food isn't being produced this year or next. And it's really interesting how just one single month before all these events are playing out, that all these new regulations for gold holdings and changing of asset classes came to fruition and was implemented just one single month before this. Wow, it's almost like it was planned. Obviously, paper gold more risky than physical gold, changing the tiers. Physical gold, 0 weight, tier 1, very solid, no counterparty risk. I hold it, I own it. Now the thing was, metals, they've already had a run on metals where they've suspended trading and margin calls were given, but the biggest billionaires who were going to get wiped out and wipe out brokers and brokerage houses and take down parts of economies, they were given a pass. You and me, they don't even blink an eye when we get wiped out and become homeless. But because some billionaires were wiped out on their margin calls, they gave them extra time and allowed JP Morgan to even fund them so they wouldn't go bankrupt. Although at higher interest rates, I think 11%. Nonetheless, nickel screaming to all-time highs, never seen before. So fast the rises that it took out entire markets. So London Metals Exchange says it's going to cancel on nickel trades, defer all delivery of all physical settled nickel. The same exact thing is going to happen with gold. This is just the first shoe to drop here, the nickel. And I've been reading snippets like this. Thought I'd pull one. Within a month, physical silver won't be available anymore in many countries. I'm going to have to agree with that. And I won't say in a month. I'll say about 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, a month. Silver prices in the latest chart, it went up to $2,071 before retracing back to around 2,000, all-time record high, eclipsed. But looking over at APMEX, silver and gold, the orange line is where we're looking in the interest in the amount of people buying silver and gold comparatively to averages. And I'd like to look at the averages on a longer term time basis for the last, say, 10 years comparatively to what we're seeing now on a daily or a monthly. But this is getting into record territory here. And this is what I'm talking about right here, that chart. If you've been looking anywhere that you're seeing commodities, it's vertical from that point. Wheat, oil, any of the metals. Now we're going to see it with gold and silver. If that trends upward into a vertical rise, the markets will be wiped out and they'll have to suspend trading on precious metals, which again will kick back in that effect of, oh, we just missed the boat, get it at any price, which is then going to cause more demand. And physical's physical. Just like the keys on your cryptocurrency, you don't hold it, you don't own it. You don't have your keys, you don't own it. And now a bevy and a tidal wave of these types of notices on gold and silver purchasing sites, much like APMEX. This one's Border Gold out of Canada, facing delays of 3 to 4 weeks. And by that point, your order might even be kicked back to you. We'll return the paper. We can't facilitate it, can't deliver. No harm. My bad. But this is another outlier here. International Monetary Fund is going to try to suspend the special drawing rights, this special IMF currency, which brings us into central bank digital currencies and the whole programmable money push at the moment. Even the U.S. is in on that. I mean, they already froze Russia's $630 billion, but now they're after these last $17 billion in the SDRs. They have to find another country that'll trade them, i.e. China. And then other members of the IMF were talking about kicking Russia out. So we are definitely in uncharted territory here. So let's loop back and boomerang back into Europe. And if you're trying to cause as much chaos as you can, this is a perfect play right here. What I'm explaining to you is the perfect chaos play. And people looking, that's crazy, why are they doing it? Well, if you understand they're trying to create the most chaos, it would make sense. Russia, Belarus squarely in default territory. And foreign banks have exposure of $121 billion to Russia, most of it concentrated in Europe. Okay, that swings back to the reserve ratios, physical gold holdings, non-delivery to the London Bullion Metals Exchange. But the derivatives is what people are not talking about. The intertwining of these risk assets split amongst a bank that doesn't want to hold all the risks, so they'll split it into another bank and then another bank and another bank and another bank. Except the major players know that they're holding it because even though it's split as a derivative through all of their holdings, it's still in the same hands. It's just when it starts to come unwound, it gets a little messy. Remember 2008 subprime mortgage crisis? And they'd bundled all those subprime loans into assets and then collateralized those, sent them off as derivatives as well. So that basket of asset, bank was like, hot potato, I don't want all of this. Let's cut it in, say, quarters, and we'll send out 4 different sets of investment to other banks. And they'll take that on as an investment, but also as a leveraged investment that they don't want to hold all of it either. So they'll cut it into 4 pieces and send it to their partner banks, which will buy it as an investment. They're like, hot potato, let's cut it in 4 pieces again. And it goes out across the world some hundreds of millions of times, cut and rebundled amongst banks and institutions. Okay, reserve ratios are required when they start losing money to pull those back in. It's so intertangled and so intertwined. That's what happened with the subprime crisis. It was all those home loans were bundled, and then they were sliced and diced and reallocated, rebought, sent again, and nobody even knew who was holding what mortgage on anything. And that's where it came to the very end there, where a lot of attorneys were saying, show me the physical loan on paper from your institution. And they're like, well, we can't find it. Well, of course not, because it was on-sold to another bank and then another bank and another and another and another. And that's where the unwind came. Variable rate mortgages, oh my, if you have it this time, you'll be paying like 10,000% as we roll through the next year here. Fixed rate, pay off your debt if you can, and get some precious metals. Beautiful ink work here. And I'm wondering at the top of that building on the left, if that's a remnant of some sort of wireless power delivery system, capture system, because that area right now that's in chaos was the heart of Tartaria. You would expect it to be some tech left over. And I'm wondering if our past is our future. Is 2008-9 unwind the future now, but will include precious metals? Is the economy an unwind of thousands of years in the making now to collapse as the Roman Empire and start again? And are we heading back into conflict with these types of detonations? Economically, physically, spiritually, mentally. We have definitely entered a new age. So storable foods, A, hedge against inflation for sure. Food prices are going to get so expensive moving forward. But at the same time, 25-year shelf life, emergency food. In case rations at the supermarket aren't available as we get into rationing around May or June of this year, with the realization that the fertilizers aren't there to grow what we need. And at the same time, you could supplement this if you're growing some of your own foods and really only use it when you're in a duress situation. Adapt 2030 and My Patriot Supply, 3-month emergency food supply. That link's in the description box below, along with tonight's images and stories and all the other links to everything I talked about tonight, also in that same description box below the video. I do thank you for spending your valuable time with me. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.